just talked to Jimmy Hart yesterday, and he was fine. To have this happen is so.
The wrestling world mourned Hulk Hogan, but the real story of his final moments stayed buried until now. A nurse who was by his side has finally broken her silence, revealing details about his last hours, and it was more painful than anyone imagined. The morning of July 24, 2025, began like any other summer day in Clearwater, Florida. The sun was already climbing high in the sky, promising another scorching day in the Sunshine State. But inside a beachfront home that had witnessed countless celebrations and family gatherings, a drama was unfolding that would soon capture the attention of millions around the world. At 9:51 a.m., the silence was shattered by the urgent sound of a 911 call being placed. The caller's voice, though not publicly identified, conveyed an urgency that set in motion a desperate race against time. Emergency services received the call reporting a cardiac arrest at the home of Terry Gene Bollea, better known to the world as Hulk Hogan. The wrestling legend who had body-slammed giants and captivated audiences for over 4 decades was now facing his most formidable opponent yet, a failing heart that had suddenly betrayed him. Within 5 minutes, at 9:56 a.m., the first responders from Clearwater Fire and Rescue burst through the doors of the Hogan residence with their equipment in hand and their training at the ready. The scene that greeted them was one of controlled chaos. Paramedics immediately began performing CPR on the 71-year-old wrestling icon, rhythmically compressing his chest in a desperate attempt to restart his heart. The man who had once lifted the 520-pound Andre the Giant above his head now lay motionless, his famous physique offering no defense against this invisible enemy. For over 30 minutes, the paramedics worked tirelessly, refusing to give up on the man who had never given up in the ring. The dispatch audio later obtained by People magazine painted a picture of medical professionals pushing themselves to their limits, continuing chest compressions well past the point where many might have stopped. At 10:28 a.m., a full 32 minutes after their arrival, CPR was still ongoing as they prepared to transport Hogan to the waiting ambulance. A video later circulated on social media, reportedly shared by TMZ, captured the heartbreaking moment as paramedics performed chest compressions while wheeling Hogan toward the ambulance.
Which pain are you in right now?
That's kind of fun. Because I had a physical therapist ask me yesterday, if you could be out of pain, or you can have a perfect championship walk, what would you rather have? And I said, I'd rather have the walk. She goes, you're out of your mind.
The image was surreal. The man who had entertained millions with his larger-than-life persona was now fighting for every breath and every heartbeat as medical professionals worked with unwavering determination to save his life. The journey to Morton Plant Hospital was filled with continued medical intervention. Inside the ambulance, paramedics maintained their life-saving efforts as the sirens cut through the morning air, racing through the streets of Clearwater. By 10:32 a.m., Hogan was being rushed into the emergency department, where a team of hospital staff was already prepared and waiting. What happened next inside Morton Plant Hospital remains largely private. The hospital staff, bound by professional ethics, continued their efforts behind closed doors. Despite the advanced medical equipment, the expertise of the doctors and nurses, and the continuation of aggressive resuscitation efforts, the outcome was one that would devastate fans around the world. At 11:17 a.m., after nearly an hour and a half of continuous medical intervention, Hulk Hogan was pronounced dead. The official cause was listed as cardiac arrest. The Clearwater Police Department later confirmed that there were no signs of foul play or suspicious activity and that a standard investigation was underway. The news of Hogan's passing spread rapidly across social media and news outlets. But in those first moments after his death, there was only the quiet reality of loss. The hospital staff who had fought so hard to save him now faced the somber task of preparing for what would come next. The man who had seemed invincible in the wrestling ring, who had kicked out of countless 3 counts and risen from the canvas time and time again, had finally met an opponent he could not overcome. The timeline of events that morning reveals the extraordinary lengths to which medical professionals went to save Hulk Hogan's life. The dedication shown by the first responders paints a picture of individuals who understood they were fighting for more than just another patient. They were fighting for a cultural icon whose impact transcended the wrestling ring. The decision to continue CPR for over 30 minutes speaks to both the severity of Hogan's condition and the determination of the medical team. In many cardiac arrest cases, resuscitation efforts are discontinued after 20 minutes if there is no response. The extended effort in Hogan's case suggests that the paramedics may have seen intermittent signs of life, brief moments where his heart showed some activity, giving them hope that their efforts might succeed. The first part of Hulk Hogan's final chapter was written in the desperate efforts of paramedics and emergency room staff who refused to give up, who fought with every tool at their disposal to save a life. It is a testament to their dedication that they continued their efforts for so long, treating the wrestling legend with the same determination he had shown throughout his career. But sometimes even the greatest fights end in defeat, and on that July morning, the wrestling world lost one of its most iconic figures. In the weeks and months leading up to that fateful morning, a complex web of health concerns, public denials, and private struggles was unfolding around Hulk Hogan. The man who had built his career on projecting an image of invincibility was battling forces that even his legendary persona could not overcome. Understanding these final weeks provides crucial context to the tragedy that would unfold at Morton Plant Hospital, the warning signs, the denials, and the disaster that followed.
Hey, I said, well, I'm in pain all the time, but I'm used to it. And my go-to in the morning, just to get me rolling, is 2 cups of coffee and 2 Tylenols.
In an interview with Chris Van Vliet, Hulk Hogan confessed that he was almost always in pain. Despite the constant discomfort, he said he would rather have a championship walk than be free of pain. This mindset defined his attitude toward his career. It was bold, but it was also the reason his condition continued to deteriorate.
From the back being fused?
Yeah, the back.
How many discs fused?
Everything's fused. The whole back. I've had 10 back surgeries.
The tragic story continued in May 2025 when Hogan underwent a major medical procedure known as a 4-level anterior cervical discectomy and fusion, or ACDF. This was not just any surgery. It was a serious spinal fusion operation that his representatives initially described as successful.
You can't take away from what I've already said and what I've already correctly predicted. But I am officially the guy that was the only one telling the truth about Hulk Hogan's physical condition.
For a man who had endured more than 25 surgeries in the past decade, including 10 back operations and replacements of both knees and hips, this was yet another attempt to manage the cumulative damage from a career built on physical punishment. The public narrative surrounding Hogan's recovery was optimistic. On June 18, 2025, his representative told *E! News * there was no reason to panic, emphasizing the success of the neck surgery. This message of reassurance became a recurring theme in the weeks that followed, even as whispers of more serious health issues began to circulate within wrestling circles. The situation took a dramatic turn when Florida radio host Bubba the Love Sponge, Hogan's former best friend of 15 years, began making alarming claims on his show. Bubba reported that Hogan had spent 6 weeks in the intensive care unit and was on his deathbed. These claims sent shockwaves through the wrestling community and sparked what would become a fierce battle of narratives between those claiming to know the truth about Hogan's condition. 3 days before Hogan's death, Bubba's co-host, Lummy, made even more disturbing claims, stating that Hogan could no longer speak and was confined to a hospital bed at home. The image painted was of a man in severe decline, far removed from the optimistic updates being shared by his inner circle. However, Hogan's family and close friends vehemently denied these reports. On July 11, 2025, Sky Daily, Hogan's wife, took to Instagram to address the rumors directly. In a detailed post, she insisted that her husband's heart was strong and that there was no brain damage or oxygen deprivation. She described reports of him being in a coma as completely false, painting a picture of a man recovering well from his recent surgery. Jimmy Hart tweeted that Hogan was doing great and feeling phenomenal after spending time with his son, Nick. The tweet, which Hart later deleted, stood in stark contrast to the dire warnings coming from Bubba's camp. Hart's optimism seemed genuine, and his shock at Hogan's death just 48 hours later was both palpable and heartbreaking. The conflicting narratives created a confusing picture for fans and media alike. On one side stood Bubba the Love Sponge, insisting he was the only one telling the truth about his former friend's deteriorating condition. On the other side stood Hogan's family and inner circle, maintaining that while he was recovering from surgery, there was no immediate danger.